Welcome back to episode 10 of the Rally Report podcast. Been getting a lot of messages asking for today's guest to be on, and thank goodness I finally got in contact with her. Quick shout out to Lucy Beecroft for helping out in that. She's currently ranked 25 in the world, and I think she'll be ranked 17 in the new year when this episode will be aired. She has absolutely took the PSA Tour by storm this entire year and continues to impress with her recent performance at Blackball, where she was a semi-finalist. Warm welcome to Gina Kennedy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Wait, first of all, do you go by Georgina or Gina?
I go by Gina mostly. Everyone calls me Gina.
Okay. So this, I'm sure this year has been quite successful. And I don't think the squash world gives you insane celebrity status, but I'm definitely picking up on a vibe that you're becoming a celebrity within the community. Have you had time to soak up the success or, feel like, wow, I'm getting more attention from the community? Have you felt that this year?
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely felt, like you said, it's not obviously that well-known squash. So in the very small squash community, I have definitely felt like I suppose presence is a bit more well known now, which is really exciting. I get a lot of quite a few messages when I'm at tournaments and stuff from people, and it's really nice to see. Even like little kids will message me and ask me like, "Oh, like how do you become good at squash and stuff?" And it's just like really nice to see that like people are watching and engaging with what you're doing and stuff.
What is the most well, first of all, when I put your Instagram question thing up, I don't think I've ever gotten this many questions for any of the episodes before, but I'm curious to hear what is the most common question you receive in your DMs from strangers.
A very common one is like a lot to do with fitness and like how like what kind of fitness regime I do and like how I don't know what classifies me as fit, but people want to know about my physical the physical training side of it, I think.
Yeah, that seems to be the common theme in the questions I received as well. Does those questions kind of get on your nerves, or you're like, it's fine, like, because I'm sure you get so many of them.
I don't get as many as you think. A lot of them I get, in day-to-day conversations with people. A lot of people at the clubs I train with, are always very supportive, very engaging, and they're also like really curious about my training, what I get up to. They'll always try and like take a peek if I'm doing a little circuit or something. But I don't get annoyed at all. I feel it's nice because, like you said, squash is quite under the radar. So I don't think many squash players are used to, feeling like they, like are in the spotlight or whatever. So it's quite nice when people take an interest, I guess, and like know what you've been up to.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to, your recent Blackball performance. I know you beat out the likes of S.J. Perry and Farida Mohammed, and you made it to semifinals, which I'm sure you're happy about, even though, you lost out in the semifinals. And I wanted to talk about your matchup with S.J. for a second here, because I don't think you've had the best track record against her, and I think style-wise too, it's completely polar opposites with how you guys play. So I was curious, did you have a different approach this time, or were you more amped up about this matchup than usual? What do you think was the difference maker here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, SJ is like number 5 in the world. I've been watching her play from when I was younger, and I've realised that when listening to her results, like she doesn't lose to people who are like not inside the top 5, top 10 rankings. Like she really doesn't lose. And the first few times I played her, I realised why. Like she's very difficult to break down. If you like miss your target a little bit, she's so skillful, way more skillful than I am, and she'll just put the ball away. But I've just been, I suppose, where I've been playing a lot, and I've been playing a few of the top 10 girls and done quite well against them, and I just think I've just found a bit more confidence in my game. So for this particular match in Egypt, I knew it was going to be difficult, and there was a strong chance that she would, chop me like I've done in the past. But I also just felt more confident in my playing ability, and win or lose, had a different game plan, and like I just wanted to make sure I executed it. Like I said, win or lose. And I was very relaxed before that match. I don't know why. I think it's because, like I said, I wasn't really focused on the end result. I was just focused on how I wanted to play, and it was just one of those days, I think, where everything kind of like was working for me. Like some of the shots probably would have been in the tin any other day, but they somehow went up that day.
So you lost out to her in the British Nationals a couple months back. Would you say you completely switched up your game plan, or was it just better execution on your part of the same game plan?
Yeah, so I think it was better execution, and I think it was, like, I keep coming back to that belief aspect of it, that in the British Nationals, I was really content with being in the final. I was like, I think I'd just beaten Kesney the day before, so I was on a high from that. So I was satisfied. I was like, I'm really happy with this. Like, obviously, I always want to win, as I'm very competitive, but it was a different, like, I didn't expect to win, and I was just like, oh, I'm in the final, yay. Whereas for this one, like I think I said in an interview, although it wouldn't have been the end of the world if I lost, I was really satisfied with just, making second round of Egypt. Like, I wanted to progress further into the draw, and I wasn't just content with getting there. And I think just that mindset shift is really important to squash. I mean, like, I say it all the time, I really think mindset is like 90% at least of, the outcome of the match. So yeah, my mindset shifted, and I definitely executed my game plan better. Like, I was bullying more, and just being a bit more proactive.
Also, another curious aspect, because you've taken down, I mean, now a couple top 10 players now with Joelle King. I think you beat Rowan El Rabi, and now S.J. Perry, and also Tesney Evans as well, I think she's top 10. Do you think there's a huge discrepancy in the women's tour right now between the top 10 and, per se, top 20, or would you say it's pretty similar? There could be upsets that could be happening.
Yeah, I think I do think that's a hard one. I think the top 10 girls are probably a slight level above. I think there is a little difference, but I think upsets for like the depth of the women's tour is like
No, I asked this because I think with the men's tour, the top 10 is very much so ahead of anyone below. But I think with the women's, the depth is a lot deeper. So you do see these upsets happening, and you see a change of shift. Which I wanted to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think at the moment, I would say that, like, Gohar and Trevini, Hania, they're maybe just like slightly above, like one level above kind of the rest of the pack. And then, like you said, below that, although the top 10 girls are, like dominant, there are definitely a lot of players inside that top 20, top 30 who are just like so dangerous.
Well, okay, now going back to so you played Nour El Shibini in the semifinals. Was that your first time ever playing against her?
Yeah.
How was that, being on court with her? What do you think was the biggest difference between you guys?
Yeah, it was cool being on court with her. Like, she's amazing. I love watching her play. I love the way she conducts herself on court. Like, I think she is so cool. So I was a bit, maybe even a little bit starstruck before. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm playing Shibini in Egypt in the semi-finals. So it was a different, like, I talk about mindset a lot, and it is difficult, but my mindset for that one again was, I'm satisfied with the semi-finals. Like, did not think for a second I would make the finals, because I hadn't played her before. So, like I said, confidence is so important. But the only way to get confidence is to like be in those, like to experience those things and actually like build confidence, because you can't just walk on thinking you'll beat Shibini when like you're not going to. But yeah, I was starstruck. I was really happy like to be there, and just to see what it's like to play against her. And it was hard.
Was it just the pace? Was she playing at a different pace?
Yeah, the pace, the way she just, anything that was loose, I didn't know where it was going. Like, everyone talks about that hold that she has. And it is so true. She's there so early, and I'm like, I don't know where this is going. and it's just cool. And then obviously she can just like slot it whenever she wants, really. So you're just always just kind of trying to get the ball away from her racket.
I mean, yeah, her racket work is just something else.
So it's so cool to watch.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are mind blown to see how fast you're moving up the ranks. I mean, this past year, and I mean, it's understandable if they didn't realize how good you were from Harvard. And I think as someone who played in college squash, I knew how good you were. So part of me is like, I'm not really surprised how fast Gina's moving up the ranks. But did you foresee yourself move up at this pace at the beginning of 2021? Or would you say it has something to do with your confidence and just getting more exposure to tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have really wished for a better, the way this year's turned out. I couldn't have, wished for a better year. I definitely didn't expect to be ranked inside the top 20 come January 1st, 2022. And I think I've been like obviously COVID did put a big spanner in the works for me in terms of I came out of college at rank like 184 or something, and then I couldn't compete and get my ranking up for a year and a half or whatever it was. But in a way, it actually worked out really well for me because there have been so many challenger tournaments put on over these 6 months. So I've been able to get up the rankings quite quickly just because I've been playing so much, and then obviously playing so much and playing these girls and doing well against them gives you that confidence going into like the bigger events. So I think I have been lucky in the sense that I have had a lot of opportunities, which might not have happened if COVID didn't happen and I had to really start with a 3K every couple of months.
Yeah. Did you change something this past year in terms of your training regime or your diet change? I think that you said in one of your post-game interviews about your diet, it's you don't eat meat, and if you could go into that and just something that changed in your training.
Yeah. So when I was at Harvard, I was obviously training hard. Like I've always trained hard and always been like, one of my strengths would have been like the physical side of it, but I realized I wasn't really training like a pro should train, because training is so much more than just like what you do on the court for that 1 hour. So I really, this past year or since graduating, started to think about my diet, my recovery, and changed a lot of things like prioritizing sleep. I cut out meat and dairy, so I do eat fish just to like protein options when I'm away, but I tend to have like a mostly vegetarian diet. And I noticed that doing that has allowed me to, do 2 hard sessions a day and not really feel any residue the next day.
So would you say this diet change has really improved with your, would you say recovery or your like squash training itself?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I listen to quite a few podcasts and stuff about, training and like high performance and stuff. And I definitely noticed since my diet changes that I can back up a hard session with another hard session in the afternoon and, the next day not feel any, residue or anything and just keep being able to like back it up, which when it comes to these hard matches, when you're in tournaments and you've had, when I was in Detroit, I had a few like really long, hard freezing matches, and it's just so. Obviously, winning the match is great, but there's so much more to it for to be able to perform the next day, and that's about like fueling your body well and making sure you get enough sleep and everything like that. So I think that's a big part of my training. I would say like the diet. And everything.
Also, another thing that I wanted to ask with you moving up the ranks is you get more exposure to the glass court, whereas the traditional. And I think I've asked a lot of players about this, and I wanted to hear your take on what do you think the difference is, and do you favor a court more? What do you say?
Yeah, so I would say that my game probably suits a glass court more. And that might be because I'm way more used to it. Obviously, I'm based in London. I don't actually train on a glass court much at all. Luckily, I'm at Nottingham University, so when I am there, I'm able to train on that glass court. But the amount of exposure I get to glass courts is very minimal, and it is really different. The game just seems to be the glass court takes like a good length and a good short ball a lot better than a plaster court. And I think where I'm more of like a physical player, I guess, I sometimes like can rely on my speed or whatever to get back in the rally. And when I'm not hitting my targets, that's really obvious on a glass court because it will hit the side wall and just like stop. Whereas on a plaster court, it will run through a bit more so you can get away with it. So I think I would definitely prefer a plaster court probably, but hopefully that will change the more
over the years.
I play.
Well, so speaking of, I'm sure you must be so bummed out about the recent TOC being canceled, postponed to May. And I was checking out your draw as well. I mean, how were you already thinking about that as soon as Blackball was over?
Yeah, So I was thinking even before Blackball, my coach and I was thinking, okay, so when are we going to take a break? Because obviously a break was necessary after Egypt. So it was like, are you going to come back and take a break straight away, or are you going to, like play that week before Christmas and then take a break or whatever? So I was definitely thinking about TOC before Egypt. And again, it was another good opportunity to play people I haven't played before, and just I'm definitely gutted that it's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, so how has this changed your plan for January and coming into the new year? Because I'm sure you were, excited about this for the TOC and with how you're performing in the form you're in.
Yeah.
Has this altered your plans for January?
So kind of. I mean, I'm at the moment, like by now I probably would have got back into a more like, I say the word strict, but training regime where I'd have been like, more consistent with what I'm doing. But since there's not much to train for, I'm allowing myself to have a bit more of a break where I'm kind of, playing more for fun as opposed to, right, let's think about. So in that sense, it's changed a bit, which has been really nice to be fair, but it's hard when there's not a tournament to like prepare for. So I'm not actually too sure what tournament I'll be doing, what my next tournament is. Potentially Cleveland for bronze. It's happening at the end of January. So I hope that goes ahead. But so it's still up in the air as to what is my next event. So.
Gina, are you based in London right now? Where would you call your home base?
Yeah, so my home base would be in London. So I'm studying for a master's at Nottingham University. So I have a place up there where I live with other squash players like Luke Seacroft, Gina Kennedy, and Stan Veldkamp. So it's a good setup there. But my coach is Ben Ford, and he's been in London. He's been based in London the whole time. So, and that's where my family lives. So I've actually been home in London for the past like 4 months, I'd say, just training Ben and preparing for the tournament.
Do you have good training partners with you in London that you can help with?
Yeah. So I train mostly with men, but there's Burke Hampstead is like a good base for a lot of the English players. So Jazz Huff and Lucy Purnell, and then before Alex retired. So those are like the 3 girls that I would train with mostly when I'm out there.
Gotcha. I mean, it's funny because I think in one of your interviews you said how much of a homebody you are and the amount of traveling you're having to do. Are you enjoying the tour right now? It takes a toll on the body with you being all over the place.
Yeah, no, I've actually been loving it. Like a lot of my events have been in America, and so I've been able to see, especially for Washington and for the US Open, been able to like see a few friends from college, which has been really nice. Obviously, we got like sent home in March. You've got a week to move out, so it's been nice to like be back in America where I didn't really get that closure. But I'm been surprised with how much I kind of don't mind the traveling and the stuff. I think maybe because it's like so new to me. I think in a couple of years when I've been on tour for a while, I'll be like fed up with it.
This is enough for me.
Exactly.
All right, so I want to quickly roll back the time here back to your Harvard and college days, and I was surprised to hear that you were initially a little hesitant to even go overseas, and you were going to stay in the UK and do your studies there. I have a question. Do you think if you had stayed in the UK, you might have not gone professional?
I think I think I would have been. I think I would have gone pro, but I don't think I would be in the same position I'm in now. I don't think.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I took a gap year before going to America because I decided that I didn't want to go at the beginning, and I decided quite late on.
Yeah.
So I had to take a gap year to like do all my ACTs and stuff. And in that year, I went pro because I was just doing exams. I was like, "There's not much else to do," and I didn't really want to be pro. All my friends were at university. I felt the lifestyle was very lonely, very isolated. And like I said, I was in the frame of mind of like, how can I make myself a better squash player? So I hated it. I hated the traveling. I hated everything.
Oh no, yeah.
So I didn't actually think I would be pro at all after that. But then, and I think if I stayed in England, I'd have gone to university, probably played squash and just did pro as like a token. I don't know what else I want to do, but I don't think I would have been as like dedicated to it. I think going to Harvard and balancing everything and like taking myself away from squash for a bit, just in terms of, I don't think that's what I want to do with my life. And then coming to realise, actually, no, this is something that I want to do, and how you're going to do that is going to be, you're not going to be able to eat terribly. You're not going to be able to go to bed at like 4 a.m. Like you have to be so disciplined with everything. And so I think I probably would have been pro, but I don't know if I would have been maybe number 17 in the world.
I mean, you obviously were a very successful junior player yourself. Would you say you were a little burnt out towards the end of during that gap year and your junior career as well?
Yeah, maybe. I think I always loved it, and I loved squash. I loved training, but there were other things. I was like an 18-year-old girl. There were other things I wanted to do. My friends were at university, going out, and honestly, that is what I wanted to do at that age. So
I mean, who would have wanted to be?
Yeah, exactly. Where, like you said, I was quite a successful junior, and that comes with a lot of sacrifice. You can't go out with your friends. You're always away at weekends, training after school. So I do think I was just a bit fed up with it. And if you're not mentally 100% in, it's just, you're not going to do well. And I don't think I won it. I honestly barely won a match, I think, that year where I was pro.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, also another interesting fact was, so it was your junior year at Harvard that you made up your mind that you wanted to go professional.
Yeah.
Right. So where did that transition happen for you? Was it like end of sophomore year where you're like, you know what, I really do, this is my passion and I want to pursue it? Did something click during your freshman, sophomore year at Harvard?
Yeah. So my sophomore year, so at Harvard, there is quite a lot of pressure to like get these internships. So everyone's doing these internships from and they'd known from the first day of school what they were doing next summer. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is. So my sophomore year, I got an internship in London, just for 6 weeks, and that was the moment I decided that I wanted to play squash. I would work up in London from 8 till 5. And I was just constantly thinking, okay, how am I going to play squash this week? How am I going to fit it in? Like texting my coach, like, when am I going to come? And I just realized I just didn't want to be in the office. So,
the sit down desk life isn't for you.
Yeah, if I was so just thinking about how am I going to play squash, it's clearly something that I love and want to do, so that I should at least give it a try. So that was the determining factor.
Yeah, so it seemed like it seems pretty obvious to me that, Harvard had played such a positive influence in your squash career. If people don't know, you were probably one of the most successful college squash players to ever come out. You won the individuals 3 times, team championships. Was it all 4 years that you guys won the team championships? Yeah. Wow. Now, the thing that I'm most curious about was how you navigate the dynamics within the ladder. I know you didn't play number 1 your freshman year, and you just mentioned how competitive a person you were. How do you manage to, navigate with such good players down the ladder? As much as you want the team success, you also are thinking about how well you're doing, how well you're improving. So how'd you navigate that?
Yeah, definitely. And that is a very interesting dynamic every year because, like you said, the kind of personalities that Ivy League schools attract are those who are probably quite competitive, quite type A, like they want to do as best as they can. So at Harvard, we'd have every Monday a challenge match to determine the ladder. So season started in like December. So from October, every Monday we'd have a match to determine. And if you won, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter like it's got excuses. If you won, you're moving up. If you lose, you're moving down.
Yeah.
So there was this pressure every single week, and like I was, one of my best friends, Amelia Henley, we were at college together, and she's also from Kent. So we were rivals, but also best friends growing up. So I kind of was used to, playing your best friend and wanting to, beat each other on the court. But as soon as you come off the court, it's like back to being best friends again. But it is difficult, and you've got that dynamic with 13 players, some of whom aren't best friends,
Right.
So it's very interesting. It's very competitive, but I think it makes for a really strong team dynamic, and that's such an important aspect of the college squash world. If you have to just kind of, it matures you a lot as well. Like you have to face up to the, if you play badly that week and you move down, you have to just congratulate your teammate and kind of move on. Although it might be hard, and it might not always be like that. But yeah, it was a hard dynamic, but it made us better. Sabrina Sobey and I would have some, big battles most weeks.
Yeah.
She would beat me most of the time, but if I were to beat her, straight away we'd, going out, maybe having, getting dinner together that night. It's just, it's good. It's an interesting dynamic, but it's something that, helps, I think.
Yeah. Is it also really cool to see? I mean, I feel like there's so many college squash players now going to the professional after you see all of these people that you could be friends with or you're very familiar with. Is it cool to see that on the tour as well now?
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. And I'm a big, I would be a big ambassador for going to college, not because I think, you need an education or whatever, but I think it's sometimes, like I said, for me, stepping away from squash and knowing that I had other opportunities allowed me to kind of find my feet within the game, and actually, I think made me the person who I am, which has allowed me to come up the rankings quite quickly, if that makes sense. So I've always been a big advocate of going to uni. One, you can train, have such good training. So if you know you want to go pro, it's a good route. And if you love squash but you don't want to go pro, then it's again another really good option. So I think it's really cool that people are becoming more aware of college squash as a route to being pro.
Right. And, they better try out the 6-week internship program
Exactly.
of sitting down from 8 to 5.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just want to now move on to a little quick fire segment where I just ask you a bunch of questions and then, you give me your answer. And then I'll also pick a couple Instagram questions I received and go from there. But yeah, we're going to start off with some squash related ones. Thoughts on best of 3?
I'm not a fan.
Not a fan.
I'm not a fan personally, but then I see some of the men play these 100-minute matches day in, day out, and I think, oh, fair enough, so that I can see why they would want that. But me personally, I would prefer a best of 5.
Well, one thing I've noticed is why the Canary Wharf they don't feature the women's tour, and I feel like they better get on that because I think the environment that the Canary Wharf makes over there is just phenomenal.
Amazing, isn't it? I know, it's such a shame. I always think it's such a cool tournament, and like I said, the atmosphere is kind of like nothing like any of the other tournaments. I'm not sure why there isn't a women's one. I don't think there's any plans for a women's one either in the near future, but we can find.
Oh, also, real quick, talking about Canary Wharf having such a good environment, how brutal is it to play in Egypt when the fans don't clap for you? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that?
I did. I definitely. I did notice it. It was hard, but I actually sometimes when I was playing Trevini, I think some people were maybe a bit happy when I won a point. Sometimes when you're watching someone who's like the level so different that you just kind of hope that they get points. So when I did get 2 points, I thought the crowd were like getting behind me. I was like, oh, all right.
This is new. This is new.
Yeah.
All right. Thoughts on goggles in squash?
I don't think they're necessary. I hated playing with goggles in college squash. I really hated it, but so I think it should be a personal preference.
Oh, people should have. Do you think they should have the option for college squashes as well?
I do. Yeah, I think you're 18 years old. I don't think why it should be enforced.
Yeah, I agree. Practicing alone or practicing in groups?
Do you mean in terms of like me and one other person?
Like soloing versus practicing. Yeah.
I would prefer to practice in groups.
In groups. Got it. Thoughts on commentators for squash?
Really good. I love commentators. Yeah. They make the game. Yeah.
Well, okay. This is pretty self-explanatory, I think. I was going to ask thoughts on college squash.
I guess everyone's huge.
Thoughts on nicknames for PSA players?
Oh, that's a good question. Some of the nicknames I think are great, and I think it's really cool. You can really like make a brand for yourself. You know, like Paul Cole. He's made a brand.
Oh, he's definitely milked it every inch of that.
Yeah, he really has. But then some nicknames, I think, I don't know, can be a bit. No, just not. They can take it. They just take it very serious. You know, like the German tree chopper. I think if you're a non-squash player and you hear that, you think it's just a bit of a joke.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a fine line. Yeah. Some are very good, and then I feel like a lot are being. Well, I feel like now, like anyone who's moving up the ranks is forced upon a nickname. And
yeah, exactly. I think a nickname should, like the Terminator, perfect nickname for Durant Gohar, perfect.
Yeah.
But some of them you're like, really?
Have they given a nickname for you?
No, they haven't. I think Joey was asking me though that he's trying to think of one. So let's hope it's a good one.
It's a good one, yeah. Thoughts on coaching post career?
At the moment, I would say that I probably wouldn't go down the coaching avenue. But that may change. I do when I do it, I enjoy it, but I can't see myself doing it full time.
Gotcha. Most underrated player on tour right now?
Ooh, good question. Most underrated player.
I feel like you no longer qualify in this category considering how fast you moved.
Well, I don't know if she's underrated because she's like number 29 in the world or something, but I think Siva Subramanian is very, very skillful, and when she's on, she's very, very dangerous. Your
U.S. Open match, that was brutal. The length it went, but
yeah. So I think, and she's young as well. So I think but like I said, she's not underrated because everyone knows she's like a baller. But probably her ranking might be a bit lower than it could be. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So the next question I have, you don't have to answer this. Some people have. You can opt out. I was going to ask most overrated player on tour.
I might opt out of that one.
Okay, let me rephrase. How about one player you dislike playing on tour?
Dislike playing, it would have been a player like SJ. You know, someone who holds the ball and uses the lift when under pressure. Like there's no rhythm to the game. I like rhythm, so I'd say a player like SJ, I would, struggle. I struggle against, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Best college squash player you've played against?
Reham Sedke. She was unbelievable, and I thought she was going pro, but then she tore her ACL unfortunately, and then got a job. So I don't think she has plans to come back on the tour, but she was so good, and I know that she was playing some professional tournaments, like taken out.
Yeah, no, I remember that she was moving up the ranks very quickly as well.
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah,
very unconventional. It seems very different playing style from anyone. Yeah,
very unconventional. so she caused a lot of issues.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to move on to some life-related ones. Favorite place you visited through squash?
Ooh, I actually went to Namibia when I was younger for the World Junior Championship.
Yeah.
I loved it there. I mean, when are you going to get the chance to go to Namibia? Like, it was such a cool, like, cultural experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, Namibia, I'd say.
Favorite place you've ever been to, regardless of squash?
Favorite place I've ever been to. You know, I loved Zurich when I went there. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful, so much to do. So yeah, off the top of my head, I did love it there.
Gina, do you like warm weather or cold weather, or do you don't mind?
I don't like the sun. Like, I can't sit out in the sun. I hate it. So I prefer like a bit colder.
Yeah. Alcohol drink of choice?
Prosecco.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Not big on tea.
Not really. No, I love coffee.
Favorite British slang?
I say in it a lot, which is bad. It sounds quite chavvy. You know, you're like, in it. So I do. I get, when I'm back in London, I get the chaviness comes out.
Biggest pet peeve?
Okay, I hate people being late. That is my.
Ooh, you're very punctual.
Being really winds me up. And also people who are like tight with money really wind me up. So it doesn't mean that you have to spend money on people, like regardless of how much money you have. But you know, some people they'll never offer to pay, but they'll always take it. That's not that.
And you have to like actively ask them to
exactly.
You got to pay me back, and they're paying it in the sense. Yeah. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I'm not a big movie person, to be honest. So I'd have to say something like, I love like watching Mamma Mia or something.
Are you into TV shows, or just not big?
Yeah, I like TV shows. I much prefer TV shows.
Or how about that favorite TV show that you recommend to the audience?
Oh, so many. So many. At the moment, I'm watching Succession. I'd say.
Oh my God, that's my favorite. If any of my friends are listening to this, I've been plugging to all my friends.
Really?
Anytime,
it's so good. Yeah, so I'd have to say that at the moment.
Yeah,
Succession.
Yeah, that's a good one. Favorite song or a pre-game hype song that you go to?
Yeah, God, I sound so bored. Like, don't watch movies. I don't really listen to music either. Like, I've never listened to music to warm up. I'll listen. You
don't listen to music?
I don't know. Like, the only time I'll listen to music is if I'm doing a workout, like not squash, but if I'm just purely like doing sprints or whatever. But I'll just put on whatever's like current. Like I don't really think about music. I know I'm different like that. I know people. Yeah.
Gina doesn't watch movies or listen to music.
Yeah, what does Gina do? I don't know.
What job or sport if it weren't for squash?
So I actually used to do running quite when I was younger.
Long distance?
Yeah, so like 5K I would do. So I think if it wasn't, that was definitely I would say I'd want to be a runner.
Yeah. Favorite non-squash athlete?
Favorite non-squash athlete? I love Roger Federer.
Yeah, class act.
And then I'd say Roger Federer for sure.
Favorite squash athlete?
Yeah, if I'm not going for an English person, Nicole Davis. I love the way she plays and the way she conducts herself.
Got it. Okay, so we're going to move on to some Instagram questions that I received, which, like 30 of these are just all about your fitness regime, which I think we've covered a little bit. But here, we're going to shout out to Nora El Tagi. She said, how old were you when you started playing squash?
I was 9 years old and then started like playing a lot more when I was about 12.
Got it. Shout out to Stuart Melbourne. He said, what's your favorite team you have ever played in?
Oh, Stu, I'm going to have to go for the Park Langley third team.
And then who else? I'm trying to pick out questions that are not about your. Someone asked, "Do you have any siblings, and do they play squash?"
Yeah, I've got an older brother, but he doesn't play squash. I'm actually the only fourth one in my family.
What does he do? What does he do?
So he's actually in the midst of applying to join the Navy.
Wow.
So he was working in Vietnam, teaching there, and then he had to come home because of COVID. So it's taken him a while, but yeah, he wants to join the Navy.
Wow, intense family.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
Don't listen to music or watch movies.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to do anything.
Who is the hardest Egyptian player on tour?
The hardest in terms of who's the best?
I guess in terms of your playing style, who would you? Yeah.
Yeah, I played Narayan Gohar in Detroit, and
yeah,
she's unbelievable. I mean, like, I love Shavini as well, but they play completely differently. And I think Gohar, just the way she plays, it's like, how are you hitting it that hard and that accurately? Yeah, so I'd go for Gohar.
Got it. Well, yeah, I'm gonna wrap. That's it for the Instagram questions, and I think I'm gonna wrap up the podcast episode there. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, and thank you for Gina for joining in.
Thank you so much.